So Ohio State wins the national championship this year, probably saves Ryan Day's job. So let's dive into it, see how their season went. So in 2023, they went 11-2. In 2024, they improved that, going 14-2. Of course, their final ranking was number 1, and they won the national championship. They did have some tough defeats. They lost at Oregon, really, really close game, 1-point game, in a weird ending where Will Howard, slid and time expired, and that was after Dan Lanning had put 12 guys on the field to defend a pass and got around the rule book, which was kind of brilliant. And then, the loss to Michigan was something to see. I mean, that was just a terrible game for Ohio State. Right. But they have the best roster in America this past year. They, spent a lot of NIL to keep a lot of their team in Columbus, but then they also did a really good job of adding talent in the transfer portal. Will Howard was a great pickup for them. There were questions about him throughout the year, but, once they got into the playoffs, he was electric, and the Ohio State offensive line did what they needed to do to keep him clean, and that was everything for them. But then they also had, they picked up Quinshon Judkins, arguably the best back in the SEC last year, and not to mention they picked up Caleb Downs on defense, who is arguably the best defensive player in America. Right. Added to an already stellar defense. I mean, their defense was off the charts, hands down best defense in college football this year. Number 1 scoring, number 1 total defense. It don't get much better than that.
Yeah. It doesn't get that much better than that, but it does. So here's this Ohio State team. When you look at the season as a whole and all the things that happened, it's really weird. This is a team that dominated in the playoffs, looked absolutely unbeatable, had all this talent, looked amazing. But 4 weeks before that, they thought their season was a failure and they were about to fire their coach. That they were totally an underachieving squad that was going to fire their coach, who has the highest or second highest winning percentage ever for a coach through his 5th season. It's just weird. They were so talented, and obviously that showed in the playoffs when they just beat the dog heck out of everybody. Yeah. But man, what was going on? Was it the adage that it was transfer players and they just didn't care? Was it coaching? What was it? Why were they not clicking as much as they should? And it just didn't make sense. When they got to the playoffs and they started beating people really bad, then it all made sense.
Yeah, it reminded me of those old LA Laker teams with Kobe and Shaq. They would start out slow and people would be like, what the heck's wrong with the Lakers? And then they just go on and beat the crap out of everybody.
Yeah. I mean, for an Ohio State team, the other thing is, yes, you won the national championship, but you lost to your rival. And your rival has beaten you 4 years in a row. How proud are you of the season? It's funny because as soon as this season ended, there was all these discussion online, a lot of Ohio State fans, this was the greatest team ever. Look what they had to do. Look at the teams they had to beat in the playoff. Well, this is a newsflash. This was the first year of the 12-team playoff. Going forward, any team who is in the playoff is at least going to have to beat 3 top-ranked teams to win a national championship. So the fact that they beat 4 straight highly ranked teams, that's awesome, and that's great for them. But that's going to be true of every national title team going forward. It's not some big accomplishment that makes them suddenly the best team in history. You lost 2 games and you got your tail kicked against your rival, who was 6-5 coming into the game, and they beat the tails off you physically. So, when I look at this,
there's no way people who are claiming that this is the best team ever can go kick rocks. So that's dumb. That is a dumb take, because you can look at a lot of different teams. I mean, over the past 10 years, that's usually who people are comparing against. The 20, 21, 22 Georgia teams. The Joe Burrow LSU team, that in my mind is the best team ever. Like that schedule that they had was legit, and they beat the brakes off everybody.
Right.
There was not ever a doubt that LSU was going to lose. Like everybody knew that they were going to win going into just about every game. And then look at those old USC teams with Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart. I mean, those were awesome teams. I mean, they were just stacked full of dudes. So not even in the same stratosphere.
Yeah. So when it comes to giving this Ohio State team a grade, I mean, national champion, obviously most talented team in the country, you would think, oh, they're going to get an A+. That loss to Michigan. The loss to Oregon by 1 point on the road, that you can forgive. But that loss to Michigan is going to stick out throughout the history books. No matter what, they lost to Michigan and got their tail kicked. And in any other season, that would have cost them the playoff. It didn't this year because it's the first team in the 12-team playoff. So for that being said, I'm going to give them a grade of an A. I can't go any lower than that, but I certainly can't go any higher.
Yeah, because they lost to Michigan in the way that they lost to Michigan, and also considering the fact that this was not a very good Michigan team. Ohio State loses to them at home in Columbus. It's not like they went on the road and played in a hostile environment and somehow came up short. No, this was by far one of the worst Michigan teams that we've seen in a long time. They had zero semblance of a pass game. They could run the ball. They could play defense. That they're really good at. But the simple fact that Ohio State lost to them at home, I gave them an A-, even though they won the national championship. That regular season was just so weird.
Right.
It wasn't an A or A+ total season.
Right.
To me.
So based on our finish criteria, they won the national championship. So they get an A+ there. Averaged out, the final Nitro Show grade for Ohio State in 2024 is an A.